Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Abelai, and today I'd like to make a presentation on the topic of institutions and federalism in Russia. Well, first of all, while analyzing the institution of federalism in Russia, I think it's very significant to understand the distinction between federalism and the federation. So, according to the account presented by Watts, federalism is more about the conceptual value and an ideology, while federation refers to something that represents the technical institutional arrangement. Well, we all know that with the come of the Putin to the presidency and to the power in Russia, the mm, his administration was faced by a challenge to create a successful institutional federation, and well, clearly goals were identified and were clear, so they had to create a supremacy of the federal law. They had to establish structural intergovernmental cooperation, and they had to create a guaranteed constitution. Well, and overall, it becomes clear that the administration of Russia at that time had to make reforms focused at decentralization of the Russian Federation and at the same time creation of strong central political authority over the regions. This is the way the successful institutional federation has been viewed by the administration at that time. However, as we can see, the result is that it became more centralized federal structure. Well, in order to better understand the institution of federalism in Russia, I refer to the Chebankova-Yelena's concept, so-called centralized federation. And according to the scholar, Russia started to move in the vector of institutional federalism at the beginning of Putin's presidency. For example, there have been some attempts made, such as the regional legislation was changed in compliance with federalism, and there have been made some changes in terms of the cadre policies in the regions, which gave the right of nomination to the center. Another change has been made in terms of intergovernmental structures, where there has been some establishment uh, of the commissions of the committees that were aimed at development of intergovernmental and interregional cooperation. For example, the system of federal districts has been initiated and state and legislative councils established. Well, all of this, all of that really shows that, in fact, the Putin's administration at that time has been moving towards the institutional federation. However, the question then is it really the way the institutional federalism functions, and is it established in Russia in that way that it functions successfully and the way it has to function? This is in fact another question. Well, in order to answer it, um, Yelena Chibankova suggests an argument that the steps taken by the Russian administration at that time made the increase of centralization and establishment of institutional hierarchy. For example, the way institutions were set up to function were leading towards the creation of hierarchy, as I mentioned before. Well, a proof and example of that is that the president was granted a right to dismiss the regional governments and regional legislatures. And this is, in fact, really was a signal of institutional hierarchy there. Along with that, there was some institutional hierarchy noted in terms of the specialized institutions created for the development and facilitation of intergovernmental cooperation. Um, Another example is an active and institutions for active only specific policy areas which correspond with the interests of the center, not not of the region and not of the local, let's say, cities, regions, etc. And overall, following that, it becomes clear that the reforms taken by the Putin's administration to institutionalize federalism led to the creation of excessively centralized federal structure and specifically institutional hierarchy. Well, another very interesting and informative framework to analyze is the so-called power vertical and local regime presented by Reisinger. First of all, let's define this framework. It's a complex of political institutions and actors and the resources and strategies available to them, which determines the conduct of local politics and local governance in a relatively stable manner over time. Well, what the Reisinger suggests with this framework is that there exists the rules that are present in the local regimes. For example, there are such rules as that the actors of local regimes um, have to act in a certain way in terms of the local politics. For example, the governance of the regions or the city mayors have to completely subordinate to federal executive authorities. Well, another example is that in terms of the competition between elites, local ones have to be loyal in relation to other elites and join the party of power, which is United Russia. Well, another example is that local regime actors are responsible for both national and regional elections and to be more precise for its results and prevention of protests. This is really something that again proves mm, the unsuccessful wave of institutionalized federation in Russia and the fact that there has been more power given and sent to the center. Well, for example, in case of the North Ossetia, the region that I'm assigned for, just to analyze this region, for example, its head, Vyacheslav Zelimhanovich Vitarov, the head of the Republic of the North Ossetia, while analyzing his biography and the way he became successful in terms of politics, it becomes clear that, for example, let's say he became the general director of the company Brewery House Bavaria. So following that, it becomes clear that he's more of a business person, and in fact, the company he was the director of is very major and substantial in Russia. However, starting from 2010, he resigned from the directory of that company and became more active in terms of politics. For example, in 2000 and already in 2007, at times when he was a director, he like in parallel um, attended the elections and became the deputy, gaining the 90% of the votes in his region in North Ossetia. Well, in 2012, Baitarov joined the Party of Power, United Russia, and starting from that period, he was elected as the deputy chairman of the Parliament of the Republic. Again, we see that the mayors, the heads of the regions, have to completely subordinate to the central authority, or in that case, to the power, to the Party of Power, the United Russia. Well, interestingly, starting from 2016, Russian President Vladimir Putin appointed Baitarov as the interim head of North Ossetia. Again, we see that by being more subordinate to the party of power, to the local elites, and to by being by subduing to the central government and the Putin's administration, the head of the region of North Ossetia started to be the way he became the head is actually achieved using in that way. And this is in fact necessary in Russia, and the region of North Ossetia is not a unique case, but rather it's very so-called the very everyone knows that in Russia the way the politics are done is this. And so following that, making a conclusion, it becomes clear that the institution of federalism in Russia is first of all very unique, and the way it's made there is very interesting to analyze. And it's not It's not established in a way to function successfully, actually, because of the, again, institutional hierarchy, because of the um, special local regime rules and the vertical of power. Thank you for your attention. Hope the presentation was informative and fruitful to you.